Hey guys, it's Lindsay. I wanted to come on here and do a video that I've been putting off for a long time. One that is truly very dear to my heart, and one that I have been a little nervous to share, but I've been thinking, and I feel like that if I tell everyone how we got pregnant, then maybe someone will be able to use the information that I say and it will help them. So I decided not to keep it just to ourselves anymore and share with you guys how we conceived our beautiful daughter, who's 10 months old now. So I don't have any notes written for this video. I don't know how long it will be. I don't know if I'll cry, or I don't know. Who knows how this video is going to go. But I do know that I want to share it with everyone, and I just hope that you guys will be understanding and not judge, and just know that we have a very loved daughter who came out of this, and she is the light of our lives. And I just wanted to share so maybe someone else can feel that they, can have that kind of love in their life. So without further hesitation, I just want to start and I just want to get into the video. So my husband and I made the decision, and I guess our TTC story started in December of 2009 when we decided to try and start trying to get pregnant. At that point we had no problems or anything that would point that we would have a problem. So we just started trying. I got off my birth control and we started trying in December. We tried in December, January, February, March, April, so for 5 months. And we both just felt like something was wrong. So we sought help. We didn't wait the year. We didn't meet the other requirements. We weren't, advanced maternal age. We had not been trying for a year, but we do have really good medical coverage, and fertility treatments and appointments are covered. So we went in to the doctor just to find out. So we went to the doctor in the end of April, I believe. I think it was the end of April. And the easiest thing for our doctor to do was to do a semen collection where they count the motility, the number, and the morphology, which is the shape of the sperm, all that. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they checked Lace, my husband, first, and the initial lab work came back that there were 0 sperm. But they told us not to worry at first because it was a simple lab. It wasn't the advanced fertility lab, and that they had had errors before. So they sent my husband to a fertility specialist. At the time we were stationed separately, so he was getting his treatment somewhere else. So they sent him to a fertility specialist, and let me go back. When he had his first semen analysis, it said less than 30 parts per million. So that just effectively, if you think of a million, there's supposed to be millions of sperm. So less than 30 parts is not very much at all. So when he went to the fertility specialist, they had the advanced techniques, the advanced testing, and they tested his sample, and it came back that he had 0 sperm. So none, nothing. So that news came to us in the very beginning of May, and I had already started my appointments. So we thought we knew the cause of why we couldn't get pregnant. It was absolutely devastating. It was the hardest thing to hear. I'm getting emotional about it. It was the hardest thing for us to go through because we both wanted children so bad. We both come from families with children and siblings, and so we really wanted that for our family. And when we heard that he had no sperm, it was kind of like you see all of that crumble, you see all of that go away. So, sorry, I'm gonna try and keep this happy because it's happy now, it's a happy ending. So my appointments had already been started at this point. I saw my OBGYN, or I saw my primary care physician first, and he referred me to an OBGYN at the fertility clinic in the hospital we go to. And they did the normal workups they do for fertility. So I go in on my day 1 and have blood work. I did an ultrasound, or I did, I think, 2 ultrasounds. I did an HSG, which is effectively an x-ray picture of your reproductive system with dye contrast, so they can see if there's flow through your fallopian tubes in your uterus and that kind of thing. So they did the full workup, and all of my work came out perfect. There was nothing wrong. I had a great, I think it's egg reserve. I'm sorry, I told you I didn't look up I wish I would have looked up the terms, but I had, all my hormones were perfect, exactly where they were supposed to be. My ultrasounds were perfect as far as uterine linings, and I had nothing wrong with my HSG. It was perfect. So we knew why I couldn't conceive. It was because my husband had no sperm. So at that point, that was, like I said, the beginning of May, and initially my thought was, if I can't have 100% our child, then I don't want any. And I hope that that doesn't come off wrong. I hope that that doesn't present as me being rude for people who may have adopted, or in other situations where that would have been okay with you. This was just initially. I have never been around people who have adopted or needed fertility help. I didn't know how to react at first, and so I started looking into embryo adoption, which, if you don't know what embryo adoption is, it's where couples who've underwent IVF and they've had the babies that they want to have, they allow their, I guess, embryos that haven't been implanted for them, they effectively give those up for adoption to be implanted into another woman's uterus. So I initially started looking at that because I said that if I couldn't have 100% our child, I wanted 0% to be our child. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm saying it right. I don't know. So I initially looked up embryo adoption. That it was what I was thinking of doing, because I knew that I was healthy and I potentially could carry a child. And then we started looking into regular adoption, but my heart just was not in it. I've always wanted to be pregnant. I had always wanted to feel a baby. I'm getting emotional. I'd always wanted to feel what it felt like to carry a child and to feel it move and give birth. And I've just always been in love with that idea. And so my heart just wasn't in adoption at the time. And initially when we found this out, my husband suggested that we might look into sperm, using a sperm donor. And initially I said no, that I couldn't imagine carrying someone else's child that wasn't my husband's. I thought that it almost felt like I was betraying him in some way. And I know that sounds silly, but like I said, I'm just gonna state how I felt at the time. And he had said that before we talked about embryo adoption and adoption, he recommended that. And finally we were talking and he said, wouldn't you rather have 50% of our child than biologically than none at all? And it was kind of like a wake-up call. It was kind of like him giving me the okay that that's what he wanted to do and that that's what he thought was right for us. And that is the push that I needed. So in mid-May, we started looking into sperm donors. I didn't know what we were really looking for. Anyway, long story short with that, we did our research. We picked a sperm bank, and we knew that from the beginning, we knew that we would disclose to any children that we had from their whole life that we use a sperm donor, and it would never be a secret for us, and it would be very open and honest, and they would know that they were picked, and they would know that they were wanted, and that it was the best gift. So we knew that we wanted someone that could be found out, someone that they could get the information for when they turn 18. So we picked our donor. We knew we wanted someone who looked like my husband and had kind of similar interests and traits and things like that. And so, at risk of sounding like it's a lot more simple than it is, it really is like internet shopping a little bit, because you pick things that you want, and they give you a list of these things. So if you say, I want this tall and this color hair and this degree and all these things, there's a list that comes up with all those things that you said. And so that's how we picked. My husband actually picked the donor. I figured that it's kind of his part, so he picked, and we made the decision to go forward with that. So that was all we did this summer. We knew what donor. We had not purchased anything. We had not purchased any samples. The only thing we bought were some photos that you can buy through the sperm bank of the donor and what he looked like when he was a baby and that type of thing. So as far as planning, we knew my school schedule and knew that it would be the best for us for me to be due in May. At the end of May, that's when school's over and I had the summer off. So we knew that that meant that I should try in September or October. September would conceive in the end of May, or the way my dates were, September would conceive in the end of May and October would be in June, which would still be fine. And so we decided then to go forward. We contacted the fertility clinic and we told them that we would want to try and conceive to be due in May and June. And so we made my appointment. They told me to call on day 1 of my cycle in August, which was August 19th, 2010. So August 19th, 2010, I contacted my fertility specialist and I was told to come in. They wrote me a prescription, and all of this we had went over before. I knew that I would have to be on Clomid. I knew that I would have to take an HCG shot. We knew the whole procedure. So when I started day 1, I went into the clinic and they prescribed me my Clomid, which I took on days 5 through 9, which if you guys aren't familiar with Clomid, you take it early in your cycle to produce eggs, and good quality eggs. So I took Clomid. It was 100 milligrams on day 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I went in for my follicle scan on day 12, and much to our surprise, I had 7 follicles that were the size that was needed to be able to conceive with. So I think I had 12 follicles total that were maturing, and 7 of those were of good size. So we met with my fertility specialist one-on-one because he wanted to go over the risk of multiples for us, because I did almost hyperstimulate with 7 follicles. He didn't want to cancel the cycle because he said that I did respond well and that the likelihood of conceiving multiples was less than 20%, which was twins, and then it was less than 2% would be higher order multiples, or 3 or more. So we went ahead with my cycle on cycle day 16, which was Friday, September 3rd, I believe. My husband gave me the HCG shot to cause me to ovulate, and that would make me ovulate on, I think it says 12 to 36 hours after you get the shot. So that would have been Saturday morning, from Saturday, September 4th, from 6 and then on. So on Friday we did the HCG shot, and we went out to dinner and all that, and kind of had our, good luck to us dinner. And mind you, the way you have to order the sample, the sperm sample, is you call them and let them know what day you need it delivered, which is so funny. It's so funny to talk about because it seems like an internet purchase, but you let them know what day you need it delivered, and it comes in a big, it looks like a safe, and it has a cooler. And so we got that, and we took pictures of us with it because, we were like, well, maybe our baby's in here. So we took pictures, and it was funny. So maybe I'll insert that here, maybe. We'll see. And then we got up Saturday morning, and our doctor told us to come in around 2 to be inseminated. So we chose the Iui Method, which is intrauterine insemination, and it's where the sperm come washed and they inject them directly into your uterus, where they go into your fallopian tubes right away. So we went in for our appointment at 2. We went into labor and delivery, where it wasn't our doctor on call, but it was a labor and delivery doctor, and she got us set up for our IUI. A little funny story. In some fertility clinics, they'll take the sample and warm it in a warmer in a lab and bring it up, and they'll count it and then bring it back to you and do the insemination. Well, in our clinic, the nurse came in and she said, okay, take your sample out and put it in your bra. And I laughed, and I laughed at her and just thought she was joking. And she was like, what's funny? And I said, well, I thought that was a joke. And she was like, no, take the sample out and put it in your bra. That's the best place to thaw it, is next to the skin. And I almost died. That is so weird to think of, to have the sample of, in your bra. It's weird. Anyway, so we did that, and they performed the IUI. She told me to expect some cramping later that evening. Because I had so many follicles, the ovulation pain would feel like menstrual cramps. And she told me to relax for 24 hours and just kind of take it easy. So during the IUI, we held hands and we were talking and laughing, and it was a really special moment, because for us, that might have been our conception. So it was super special to us to be able to be there and God, and hold hands, and that was our conception, and we didn't know it, but that would be our conception. And so it's so special to think of. Anyway, we went home that night, and I just relaxed on the couch, and I did have a lot of cramping that night, around 6 to 8ish. I went to bed, and that was it. I mean, that was the IUI. So it's like the next morning you wake up and you're like, I wonder if anything's going on, and I wonder if we're gonna have a baby. And it's the weirdest feeling, because there's no change. You don't feel any change, but you feel like you should, So on 5 days past ovulation, I did a video, and I'm gonna link that either here, right here, or below. It'll be below, of how I was feeling what I was thinking, and everything. I'm gonna be honest, I had a hard time afterwards, because I felt like I had one shot. I said, normal couples, when they try and conceive, they can have sex every other day, and the odds are with them. In my eyes, that's how I felt at the time. I felt as if this was my one shot. Like I had one chance to be pregnant, and it felt like it was all on my shoulders, because I felt like it wasn't on my husband's shoulders, because he did not have to perform. It wasn't dependent on him. And so that was really hard. I had a hard time with that. I felt as if I was cheated out of my shot, because all the chances were taken away, and I would never be, and all this hit me after we did the IUI. In my head I was thinking, I'll never be able to surprise my husband with a pregnancy test, or we'll never have an oops baby. There just won't ever be an oops baby. There won't be a baby like you were surprised, because it's planned for us. We have to have help. And so all this was going through my mind, and it was mostly, I'm sure, the Clomid, because now I think back, and I was just so lucky to be in the situation I was in, because we were so strong together, and we made such great decisions for our family. And anyway, that's a tangent in itself. But so if you guys didn't know, when you take the shot of HCG, it's pregnancy hormone. So you can't test for pregnancy like early, how you can in the conventional way. You can test early before you've missed your period. Well, with HCG, there's pregnancy hormone in your body when you take the shot. So if you were to take a test before, I think they said 12 days, you'll come back pregnant, because there's still HCG hormone in your body. So I wasn't able to test until 12 days after, which was horrible. Do you know how long 12 days is when you feel like you could be pregnant? And I did have a few signs. My boobs were really sore, which isn't a normal for me it wasn't before I had Audrey. And my nipples looked darker to me. And I just felt different. I just felt a little different. But I didn't know if it was me just being hypersensitive from knowing that maybe I should be feeling something. So the 12 days was excruciating. When 12 days came, my husband was back, because like I said, he wasn't stationed here. So when the 12 days came, I tested in the morning with, first morning urine, and it said pregnant. I took a digital test, and it said pregnant, and I'm sorry. And when it said pregnant, I was so surprised. I honestly didn't think it would work, because like I said, at the time I thought, I only have this one shot. There's no way that only one time it's gonna work. And it said pregnant, and my first thoughts were, maybe I still have HCG in my body. So I didn't get overly excited. I was very excited, but I tried to hold it back, because what if my body just took longer to get rid of the HCG? So I took another test on 13 days past ovulation, and I was taking my temperatures, and at the time my temperatures were still up, and on day 13 it said pregnant again. And when I tested on day 13, I pretty much knew that we were pregnant and we were gonna have a baby. And I was so beyond thrilled. So very excited. And so I called my husband and told him, and he was like, I knew it would work. I knew it. He's like, I just knew that. He called me fertile myrtle. He said, I just knew my fertile myrtle could do it. And so, yeah, we were pregnant. Our fertility clinic, when you take your pregnancy test, they want you to come in for a blood test. That way they can confirm medically via blood test that you are pregnant. And when I went in at, I believe it was 5 weeks and 2 days, or 5 weeks and 6 days, or something around there. It was before 6 weeks. Went in for my blood test, and my HCG levels were really high for where I was in the pregnancy. They were about 3 times what they should have been. They were in, I believe it, and I wish I would have looked up the numbers, but it was in the 10,000s when at the time it should have been in the thousands somewhere. And so they called me in. They wanted to do an ultrasound, and they did an ultrasound, an internal vaginal ultrasound, where they go into your vagina and do it the internal way. And they found 2 amniotic sacs, and hopefully I can put in a picture. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. 2 amniotic sacs, but they could only find 1 heartbeat, and this was at 6 weeks and 3 days, I believe. So they found 1 heartbeat, but the doctor wasn't sure. He said it could be that the baby was just turned, the second baby was turned funny. So they told us that to plan on a single baby, but to realize that there might be 2. They scheduled us for a follow-up ultrasound in 3 days to see if there could be a better shot. And at that ultrasound, there was still 1 baby measuring where she should have, which was my baby, my sweet baby Audrey. And the second baby was measuring smaller. They could only find the fetal pole, and so they just assumed that it was a heterotopic twin, which is a twin who starts to develop, but for some reason just stops developing very, very early in pregnancy. And so they told me that I had 1 baby, just 1 baby. And that 1 baby, from the single minute that I saw her on the ultrasound, I was in love with this baby. I mean, she was just so amazing to me that she was just there in me. I had her, you know. So, to finish up, I guess, well, hopefully, at 8 weeks, I experienced some bright red bleeding. It wasn't a lot. It was not the, you know, if it fills a pad in an hour, it wasn't like that. It was just bright red bleeding. It was just in the evening, and I thought I was miscarrying. I called my husband and told him, and until then, I'd been fine, just the normal tiredness, frequent urination, things like that. Symptoms were fine. And so he told me, you know, well, I called the doctor. They said, well, come in tomorrow morning, because it wasn't a lot of bleeding. It was just a little, but it was bright red. So they told me to come in. I went in. Everything was fine. They couldn't find a source of the bleeding. And then 2 days later, I was at home doing homework, and I started having really sharp pain. It was pinpoint pain, where if you picture where your right ovary would be, right there. And it wouldn't go away. I stopped doing homework and got in the shower, tried to think, well, maybe a shower will help. It didn't. I tried to go to bed, and it didn't. I couldn't. It was very sharp pain, very painful pain. And so I got on the computer to look up right-sided pinpoint pain, and the only things I could come up with were appendicitis and ectopic pregnancy. But in my head, I knew that I had seen my baby. She was in my uterus. That couldn't be her. But it was unrelenting pain. It wouldn't get let up. So I called my girlfriend. Like I said, my husband was not stationed here. And she drove me to the ER, where they presumed that I was miscarrying. Before they did an ultrasound or anything, they just told me to prepare that I might possibly be miscarrying. And when the doctor came in and did an ultrasound, they found that I had an ectopic triplet. And this was 9 weeks. 8 weeks and 4 or 5 days. And so I had to go in for emergency surgery. They removed my right fallopian tube because the ectopic pregnancy had caused my fallopian tube to rupture, and that's the pain I was feeling. I was bleeding internally, so they couldn't save my fallopian tube. They took it. So anyway, the whole story ends up perfect because I had my beautiful, wonderful miracle baby, my one of 3 that I was pregnant with, baby Audrey. And there's not a single second that goes by that I just don't count my blessings, because I am so very blessed to have her. And I know that the other 2 babies, in order for her to be here, I had to go through what we went through. And those 2 babies are loved, but I know that they had to leave so Audrey could get here. So anyway, that is our TTC story. We did get pregnant the very first IUI, so we were very lucky. And I had Audrey one day before my due date. I was due May 28th, and I had Audrey on May 27th. So anyway, that's our story. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I'm a ball bag and I'm crying, but you know, that's me and that's our story, and I hope you enjoyed. If you guys have any questions about using donor sperm or IUIs or Clomid or anything, feel free to ask. I do ask that you be respectful of our decision and know that it was what was best for our family, and that we count ourselves very lucky for the decisions we've made and know that this is what was meant for us. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you're having a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.